Hi guys, welcome back to our design challenge where we design something based off a random subject, a random style, and we try and see how tattooable it is. As always, Ashley,
Nick, Charlotte,
and Dev. Woo! We finally got someone else to join our competition, and Dev will tell you a little about himself. Got the stage.
Oh gosh, guys.
it's fine.
So that was Dev. I hope you guys enjoyed.
But just to get you guys in on it, we've merged with technically 2 or 3 new companies, but Dev is the owner of those 3, where it's Mod Mayhem, Dem Roots, Irie.
Just 2.
Oh, is it just
Dem
Mod
Roots
Mayhem and
and Mod
Dem
Mayhem.
Roots? And then Dev, can you tell the camera a little bit of what you do?
So Dev does clothing, apparel, and merch, and he also has part of the other persuasion of the smoking persuasion.
We trust him, so you can trust him.
Yeah. All right. So today's subject was
It was a cyborg dog in the style of abstract.
we're kicking off the year with a tough one, and none of us really feel very confident about it. But let's hear from the expert, Guile, and we'll see you after the reckoning.
Awesome.
Alright. Good day, everybody. So today we're back again with the judging element of the designs that were done by the artists. So for those of you who haven't seen this before, we judge on 4 topics. So we judge on application, how well the design has been put together, how clean the lines are, how well it's been saturated. Then we're judging on composition. Now, composition is how the piece has been put together. Do the elements that have been put together with the piece complement each other? Do they work well with each other? Does anything feel like it doesn't belong there? Does it feel forced? Does it basically flow well together as a piece? How well has different elements been put into one design that flow nicely with the design that's being created? Then we've got creativity. Being able to see how creative the artist was. Is it something I've seen before? Is it something that I feel is common? How creative was the artist's thought process in the design that they made? And then the last one is tattooability. So now our designs are basically judged on tattooability to see how well this design can be tattooed if it needed to be tattooed. Tattooability translates to creating the design, printing the stencil, sticking the stencil, and then tattooing it. How well can it be tattooed based off of the design that was created, as well as how well it can flow with primarily most parts of the body. There will be a new style being put in soon to target specific placements of the body that the artist will then have to design the piece to accommodate that area of the body. But for now, we judge it based on how many areas of the body this design could be done on. So we're going to get into the first one. So the first one that I'm going to be judging on is this one over here. So I'm going to get started on that. Okay, let's take. All right. Okay, so with this design, I have given it a 2 for application, a 1 for composition, a 1 for creativity, and a 2 for tattooability, giving it a total score of 6 out of 12. So first off, the style and subject was cyborg dog in abstract. This is not abstract. That's the first thing I have to put across. This design is more sketchbook than it is abstract. Abstract basically requires the use of shapes and patterns to create an emotion, utilizing a more realism or new school style with it to create some kind of feeling in the piece. And for me, because there are some shapes here that would classify as abstract, but abstract is more the entirety of the design as opposed to elements of it. It needs to encompass the entire portion of the piece to be considered abstract, not just a few sections that are there. The cyborg part, for me, it does not look as though the design is actually part of the dog. It just appears that it is a dog that's been put there, and then there have been shapes of grey that have just been put on top of it. It does not actually look like the dog is a cyborg. It just looks like there's floating grey triangles over the dog. It's not actually a part of the dog. So it doesn't hit the mark of the cyborg dog as much as it does just shapes around or in front of the dog. Because it's sketchbook, it's not one that we can judge on line work, so application becomes tricky. So application, I'm taking on the aspect of how well the blends are blended together. And there's a coloration on the eye here where green has been used, but it doesn't make sense with the piece because the eye of the dog is blue. And the tonal value of the dog has been used with peach colors, browns and oranges. So the green, in essence, it's got nowhere to draw its focal point from. It doesn't make sense why that color is actually sitting there. And because the other eye has got the yellow and orange feel in it, that highlight should have rather reflected a warm tone as opposed to a cool tone. So as for application, sketchbook design, difficult to judge on line work. It can be free and wild and all over the place, but it does not hit the abstract mark. If abstract is it's very clean. The line work is clean, the line work is solid, the line work is straight. And even if it's not line work as such, but it's actually just like swirls or waves, it's in a very clean motion. And that's because it needs to pull contrast to the piece to allow the design that's underneath it to step forward, to bring that out towards you. This piece doesn't do that. The tattooability or the creativity, I gave it a 1 because to me this is just a standard dog tattoo design that has been done thousands upon thousands of times, but the layers have been added for what would be the cyborg element in the dog, but it doesn't feel original. The tattooability, I've got it at a 2 because it is a design that can be suited for majority areas of the body. Most areas of the body this can be done on. It's got a 2 because although it is sketchbook and easy to apply this tattoo, this is a very tricky blend to achieve. There's certain blends in here that have been added that don't make sense with a tattoo. For example, in this section over here, there's this tuft right there of shadow. It doesn't make sense to the piece. It doesn't complement the piece at all. So blending those colors together like that in the skin is incredibly difficult. It can be done, but I can't say that it's going to suit well with a tattoo. But as for the tattooability of it, it scores higher rather than lower because it can be done on most areas of the body, and it's sketchbook, so it's simple enough that it can be tattooed without too much difficulty behind it. And yeah, that draws that design through 6 out of 12, so that's a 50% score. And then I'll move on to the next one. Alright, so now the next design that we're doing is this one over here. So let's get into it. With regards to this piece, so for application I've given it a 2, composition I've given it a 1, creativity I've given it a 2, and tattooability I've given it a 2. So just getting into this piece, starting off, the first issue that I have with this piece is that it's squared off. Now, no design should be squared off. When you put your design in a box like this, you cut off any accessibility to do something into the piece, add to it, or expand from it. It makes it very difficult to tattoo something like this as well because it cannot just go anywhere, and if it does, nothing else can go with it. So it's the kind of design that a sticker book person would get done, but it doesn't flow nicely. If you have to have this done, you would have to do it on a very specific area of the body. You'd have to cut that box out completely and you'd have to blow that picture up. Now, the composition, I gave it a 1 because I feel that these elements could have been placed better. The gigantic color palette that's been put there it's just floating. It doesn't make sense with the piece. If that had been done and brought throughout the piece as a physical shape, from the top at the back, behind the dog, and in front of it there, it would have flowed nicely with the design. But just floating there doesn't really make sense. It also leaves a lot of open spots in the design where there's nothing. This piece does hit the abstract mark though, because it has incorporated shapes and brush strokes to create the effect, to create the emotion of what you're seeing. This artist has taken shapes and brush strokes to create the display of a dog. The cyborg side is a little bit, it's difficult to judge as a cyborg dog. It's not what I would say that's what this was. Nothing screams cyborg to me in this piece. The artist could have done a split dog effect where they've got the abstract view of the dog mixed with the other half of a cyborg dog, because abstract is a combination of both shapes, brush strokes, as well as a combination of a different styles. Abstract is not just one style, it's not just shapes and colors and brush strokes. It can incorporate multi-mediums into one design. You can have abstract realism, abstract illustrative, abstract black and gray. You can incorporate so many different things into it, and I just don't see the cyborg part of the dog. The circles that have been put in the forehead and the face, it's a nice touch, but it doesn't make sense. If those circles had been put to the one side and that main circle had been the eye, it would have served a purpose to why those circles are there. But other than that, on first glance, I don't know why those circles are there or what they're illustrating. It's a bit confusing. It does, like I say, hit the mark of abstract because it's being utilized with shapes and brush strokes. I just feel that this piece is killing it because of the loss of empty space that could have been filled in behind this dog. Specifically using the colors that were illustrated at the top. It's a nice use of colors. The fact that the brush strokes have been used over the line work, that there would have been better if the line work was solid and the brush strokes stood next to it or behind it so that you can still see the solid line. Otherwise it just looks like one ear is brush strokes while the other ear is lined. It looks unfinished. Whereas if you had done the line work of that ear and then just shifted the brush stroke ear just slightly to the one side so that it reads still as both, it could have been seen as either an overlay or a drop shadow. But it's an unfortunate misuse of the colors, because that's the thing with abstract as well. You want those bright colors. The bright colors is what draw your attention. You see the bright colors, you see the solid black line work. That's the other thing that I haven't seen yet. Solid black line work. Abstract is a combination of shapes. Utilizing a line that is 2 to 3 centimeters solid, bold and black with bright vivid colors behind it, that draws your eyes, and then it cuts you out as you hit that black mark to follow you to where the image is actually going to. It helps create that emotion, and that emotion is getting blocked off by a shape. It's drawing your attention to what is important in the piece you're trying to display. So yeah, for me, I just don't feel that I don't feel that enough time was spent on this design. That's one thing I can say for sure. And the composition is definitely something that needs to be increased. How well the piece flows together. If you look at the way the dog is situated, that's the dog's head and then that's the neck, but then the dog's ear is starting on the neck. It's not attached to the head. Now that can be an abstract choice. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but it is a little bit difficult to read as to what it is. I can't say that on first glance, if I didn't know that this was a dog, that I would say it was a dog. Creativity, I gave it a 2 because I do like the fact that purely shapes were used to create the dog. I do like that, but that's about as far as the creative flow actually goes. The tattoo ability, I gave it a 2 because it is a tattoo design that would be very easily tattooed, but it loses points due to the squaring off of the design, cutting and limiting your ability to tattoo it. And the same as I said before, leaving these open spaces there, and there. It leaves too much freedom there for nothing to take place. Whereas if that color had actually followed through in the background, or even in the background and then overlaid this side, it would have had a nice flow to it, and it could have made a very nice forearm or calf tattoo. But because of the box around it, you're limiting your options to a square area, size that you can tattoo this as well. You're limiting that size. This design is a lot closer towards an ignorant style as opposed to it as being an abstract style. The only thing that determines it as abstract is the shapes used to create the image. But other than that, it does need a bit more work to it. But it all comes down to the composition of the piece. The composition is the biggest problem with this piece. So that scores it a 2, 4, 6, 7 out of 12. Scores it a 7 out of 12 for that piece. Then on to the next. All right, we are back. So the next design that we're going to be checking is this one over here. So let's get into it. All right, so on the next design, I've given it a 3 for application, a 2 for composition, a 2 for creativity, and a 2 for tattooability, giving it a 9 out of 12 score. Now, again, I'm coming back to this previous one that I did. Designs in boxes. The shape is in a square. It limits your ability to tattoo it in certain areas. Again, you're making it difficult for you to actually expand on the piece. Another thing as well, I do love how this wave goes through the design. However, it's very minimal. It's very subtle. With this, there's not a lot of black that's pulling your eye to allow those colors to pop. The colors in an abstract piece need to have a strong, rich amount of black to help those colors pop forward. When you put a dark contrast up against a bright color, it makes that color appear as if it's brighter. So this line wasn't a bad choice. It needed to be bolder. It needed to be bolder. It needed to flow better with the actual piece. So application wise, there's no flaws in this piece when it comes to application. The lines are smooth, the color is smooth, the transition is smooth. The creativity. Now, I gave it 2 for creativity because as much as this is fairly creative, it also just feels like the dog has been popped on top of the abstract. Abstract is supposed to flow with the design. The way that this bubble flows over the dog's face concludes abstract, but everything else just falls behind it. These shapes, these patterns, these colors, they're not interacting with the actual focal point. The focal point needs to stand alone by itself, and then the abstract needs to interact with that focal point for it to create that emotion. There's no emotion being created here, and one line does not constitute emotion. And it needed to be a little bit more involved with the piece. What I do like though is how the dog itself has got abstract throughout its entire body, between the triangles in the ears, the shape of the way the color has been shaped in accordance to the black lines, how it has a physical rounded shape there. That creates a secondary abstract feel to the design, because it's in essence taking a colored shape and then putting black line work over it. That does pull a very nice abstract feel to it, but it doesn't interact enough with the abstract around it. There's not much playing with the piece. Tattooability, I gave it a 2 as well, because it is a fairly simple design to tattoo. It's straightforward. It's how it is. It's solid line work, solid color. There's just not enough black in this design to bring those colors forward. And in the skin, it's something that you will notice. As time passes, the color is not going to sit well underneath very little black, especially with these brown tones. These tones might be quite a big difference in tonal value, but as time deteriorates those colors and breaks those colors down in the skin, there's going to be no differentiating. It's going to literally look as though It's just a shadow that becomes that color. There's no longer going to be that harsh edge. You need to have more contrast to the piece to be able to read it better. Again, squaring off designs, it makes it very tricky to do this tattoo in a place where you can actually expand on it. You can put this on the chest, but then how do you expand into it? You're not leaving any availability open for that. You put it on the calf, this area and that area are going to wrap. And now you've got nothing at the bottom, nothing at the top. Pieces need to flow against each other, almost in a zigzag formation to create a good tattoo. And that's not just for portrait locations. If it is a portrait location such as an arm or a leg or even ribs, it must be in a portrait location. Back and chest and stomach is also a portrait location. Us as human beings are portrait. We are not landscape. If it is a specific area like the round of the shoulder or the chest or even the actual calf muscle itself, again, it's not square, it's got a rounded shape. And I do feel like a lot of these designs fall short when it comes to a rounded shape. Something like this could have been done in a more round shape and it would have played off better than making it a square. Because the body is made of curves. It's not made of squares. So it's a lot easier to apply a round design than it is to apply a square design. It's also a lot easier to extend on a round design than a square design. So that scores this piece a 9 out of 12. And that's that piece. I do like this design personally. It's definitely not something I have seen before. I just wish that the background had played a little bit more into the foreground, because we're not really seeing an exact dimension of depth in this either. So I do wish that they were interacting a little bit more, even some of the shapes cutting segments of the dog out. And the biggest problem that I do have with this piece is the style and subject. The style has been hit as abstract, but the subject of Cyborg Dog, this to me just looks like a standard toy pom. It doesn't look like it's a cyborg. Nothing other than the red eyes read to me as a cyborg, and the red eyes could have been an artistic choice. It is abstract, bright, vivid colors, but there's nothing that reads this to me as a cyborg. If you account for the lines on the feet and the lines on the tail, again, could have been an artistic choice because the style was abstract. Nothing reads as though it is a cyborg. So it misses the actual subject of the design. Then we'll get on to the next one. All right, now we get into the last design of this challenge, which is this one over here. Okay, let's get into it. All right, so application, I gave it a 2. Composition, I gave it a 2. Creativity, I gave it a 3. And tattooability, I gave it a 2. So the first thing, again, squared off. Design is squared off again. It does not possess a zigzag shape. Very specific area of the body that this can be done on. The difference between this piece and the other pieces is that because there has been a color match done on the actual design, it does leave the possibility for it to be continued, but it is still squared off. It will separate this design from the next design that is done, and you always want to, it doesn't matter. I've had many people say to me, yeah, but this is what the client wants. It doesn't matter in that regard, because the artist should know better. The artist must know that just because the client says, no, I want it like that, does not necessarily mean 2-3 years from now that that client still feels that same way when they're left with half an arm that they can't finish now because this design is closing their sleeve. People change their minds. Us as artists always have to keep the ability to be able to leave possible openings or extensions from a design so that something else can flow into it later. Should someone ever decide, I would like this to be a full sleeve, or I would like this to be a whole chest piece or a whole back piece. It's the artist's responsibility to know how they can carry that piece on in a way that flows. And if they do it like this and they add a piece to it, you lose composition. So, application, I gave it a 2, and I do love the strong use of black in this piece because it does help bring those colors forward. This section right over here with these colors, with the strong black that's here, that's what I was talking about, how it pushes those colors forward because of how strong that black is. However, it loses points for application for one reason only. Now, although abstract does not have to stay within the lines of itself because it is in itself its own shapes, such as how this leaf over here, the green, goes behind the black line. That is an abstract choice. That works. However, erasing the pot and leaving a piece in the foot, that does not work. It is an error in the design itself. It's not a choice. You do not choose to do that. That was a mistake that was not erased. So it loses points on that regard. I do wish that there were a little bit more shapes visible here as opposed to just lines and circles, because this section here as it stands is abstract through and through. These are the only circles that are actually present in this design other than the eye as well as some of the half rounds on the toes. I do wish that there were some other shapes involved here as well as some other waves or patterns, but I do love the brush strokes. It does classify as abstract without the additional shapes. It fits the criteria. Composition wise, however, we have a foreground being the bulldog and we have a background being the background. We are missing a middle ground. You should have foreground, middle ground, background in every design. We are missing the middle ground because as the size of this plant is sitting here, it's safe to say that that plant is sitting next to the bulldog. So that would maintain the foreground and that would maintain the background with no middle ground. It doesn't leave us much depth option in the piece, especially if you have chosen to put a cityscape in your piece. If you decide to put any kind of cityscape or background imaging, the minute you agree to put a background, you agree to complete the foreground, middle ground, and background. You have to abide by those rules because you cannot possess a background without a foreground and a middle ground. You have to have all three mediums. I do love the fact that I can tell that this is a cyborg dog. This actually covers what I was speaking about earlier about splitting it between a real dog and a cyborg dog. I do. What was I saying now? Oh yeah. So as you can see, even the way that the actual image has been erased around the colors here, it has been erased in such a way that it actually leaves its own part of abstract in the design. The design has got the play and feel of abstract throughout. I do wish there was a middle ground to actually break this. If you were to take out the middle ground of this design, then it would have been wiser if there was something that separated the bulldog from the city. That pattern, even if it was just a straight black pattern like that, or if it was a triangle that cut the dog off there and you only saw that portion with the triangle behind the dog and then the city, that triangle or that pattern would then be your middle ground for your design. So yeah, but I do love this piece. I do like the way it's been put together. Tattooability, if you're a good tattoo artist and you know about your color blends and you know solid application and saturation, which I'm assuming any tattoo artist who would attempt to tattoo a piece like this would be able to do, then this is a tattoo that can be done. The only part that struggles with this is because of how much detail is in this piece. This is not a piece that can be done very small. It would have to be done on a fairly large scale. And by doing this on a fairly large scale, you are limiting your options by keeping it in that box. So this is a piece that would need to be done at a fair size, anywhere I would say between 17 to 20 centimeters either direction. and that limits your tattooing location quite a bit. As for the actual contrast that you get, as I say, the solid black with the bright colors definitely help to boost the piece, so it will make for a good tattoo, although it will take a skilled artist to be able to achieve this tattoo and hold on to that emotion. Now, we do have a tie, I believe, between two designs, between this one and the previous one, which was both 9 out of 12. I'm awarding an additional point to this one, making this the winning piece, as it is the only tattoo design that was created that actually follows both style and subject. It is a piece that I can see is a cyborg dog, and it is abstract in its design. So therefore I'm awarding it the additional point for following the style and to break the tie. Thank you very much, and I hope you learned something.
Yeah. Hey guys, so a little about our designs and why we chose what we did. So mine was the bulldog, which won. I don't want to brag or anything, but you know, some of us got it, some of us don't. But what made me choose it is Guile likes bulldogs. So I played into the fact that he loves bulldogs. It's his favorite kind of breed of dog, besides Boo. So I did play into the bulldogs section a little bit, and initially I had a little bit of just over the eye, and then our private chef kind of said, that doesn't read to me as a cyborg. So I was like, okay, I'll make it a full cyborg. And then when I started going down, I was like, okay, that's better. So that's why I did the split, because it read as a cyborg dog. And then I put the cityscape behind the cyborg dog, because I was thinking, you know, cityscape cyborg. And I put the cute little pot plants and the abstracts on the home dog, you know, the dog that's going to stay at home. But what I learned after the judging is, once again, just see where you erase. And then number 2, I should have put the abstract designs, like the backgrounds like this, so then they would go more portraits than square. And I did blend in the colors to make it like, you know, so you can attach it on, but I have learned do that a little more. And then yes, I also learned something about, like, you know, foreground and background, because in composition you always have, you know, your kings and queens, and, you know, like we have this whole thing with composition. So I was thinking, you know, I've got the king, who would be the bulldog, and then the soldiers, which would be the background, but I did need something just to break that. So that's what I learned this time. Abstract's not my style. I've never really actually been an abstract artist, so it was a lot of fun, and I actually really learned a lot. So yeah.
Cool. Hello everyone. Okay, so my design was the wolf. I knew I wasn't going to do very well, but my thing was I had a lot of fun. I got to play around with a lot of my brushes, which is what I thoroughly enjoyed. Definitely my piece was not something necessarily put in the category I would for a tattoo. My design was lacking in a lot of different areas. Abstract wise, 100%, and yes, cyborg dog, 100%, was very, very minimal. I should have added some more oomph to it. But yeah, I don't really have a lot to say on that, but I did definitely had fun with playing around with a lot of my brushes. And then, yeah, I'll see you on the next one.
Awesome. Hey guys, so when it came to my piece, I won't say that I'm very well acquainted with the abstract style. I don't think I fully understand all the art elements that play into the style in itself. So this really was a new thing for me. Since it was a cyborg dog, I know with the line work that is in the piece itself, it went more towards android, what I was trying to do. Obviously it didn't read that way. And with all the colors in the background, because it was a bit more of a android looking piece that I was trying to do, I wanted to go with those very bright neon blues and pinks to kind of give off like cyberpunk, cyberspace, like that kind of android with the piece itself. I did expect Guile to tear it apart a lot more than he did, but I do think this was a good learning opportunity for me. And if for any reason I need to do abstract in the future, I do have an idea of what to go off of. But otherwise, thank you for listening.
Okay. Alright guys, so joining us here in place of Deb is Mitch, our private chef, who has decided that he will be joining in on the next design challenge. So today was a lot of fun. I don't know y'all's thoughts.
Was fun. I think so. I think also because we had some new additions and we're having more new additions, which is pretty cool.
So yeah, we are going to do so I'm just going to record the screen and then just throw it somewhere. So subject, give it a go. Ooh,
Gothic woman.
Gothic
Okay.
woman. Alright. I'm actually pretty pleased with Gothic woman. Style, Sha? Okay.
Oh, please.
Please. Gothic. No! It's an ambigram. Chris, who's decided to also join in next week, is freaking out behind the
Again.
Can we do a veto? Can we veto this one?
Gal.
Yeah.
Okay, ambigram.
But if it's an ambigram, it needs to work.
Oh, okay. We can do
It's
it.
such a nice topic. So much purpose.
Gothic woman, ambigram. Okay, Mitch, kill us.
All right, let's see what we get
last
last.
sword in the. Cough.
Okay,
Placement
that's
is
fine.
cough.
It's cough.
Mm.
We got it, guys. Alright, so join us in 2 weeks' time for the ambigram Gothic woman on the cough.
Can we take a moment of silence?
If you're wondering why everyone is freaking out, an ambigram is something that looks good this way and you flip it out and it's either the same image or a completely different image, but it works both ways. So it makes an image this way and you turn it around and it makes a whole new image. That's an ambigram. So I've already got my tactic. I'm going to do Gothic woman in a font, and when you turn it upside down it says Gothic woman. So
That's a cool idea.
Okay, but you can't delete Gothic woman though.
no, I can't delete Gothic woman. So
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So that's that. That is unfortunate, but it is what it is. And then we'll see you guys next. It'll be in 2 weeks. Please comment below anything you wish to comment. Be nice though. And then like and share and subscribe. And then that's it.
thank you.
Awesome. Welcome.
Oh, God.
Ambigram. Yeah.
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 Well done, Mitch.
Is it on? Is it fun? How's the focus?
Testing.
Can you hear us? Are we? Damn! Woo!
Kyle!
You're staring too hard.
Yes, sus.
Sorry, girl, I have to blow my nose.
And
Professionalism. Power.
banana.
Banana. Okay, so.
Whose is it?
That's
Oh, okay. Is Ashley?
Nick.
What happened?
We need our little